People look at me today and think I've always been successful, that building Tesla, SpaceX, and PayPal was a straight path. But what they don't see are the failures, the sleepless nights, the heartbreak, and the years when every headline called me crazy. If you've ever felt like giving up, if you've ever been told your dream is too big or too unrealistic, then listen carefully, because my story isn't about wealth. It's about persistence. I'm Elon Musk, and this is how I learned that when you refuse to quit, even the impossible becomes inevitable. I grew up in South Africa, far from Silicon Valley. As a kid, I didn't have much, but I had curiosity. At 12 years old, I taught myself to code and sold a simple video game. It wasn't special, but it showed me something powerful, that I could build things. I spent nights reading comic books and dreaming about rockets and space travel. I didn't want to live an ordinary life. I wanted to help humanity reach for the stars. The biggest lesson? Every great achievement starts as a crazy idea that refuses to die. Leaving South Africa wasn't easy. I had no connections, no money, just belief. I came to North America with nothing but hope, working odd jobs, sleeping in offices, showering at the YMCA. Every dollar I earned went into learning, experimenting, and building. Those early years taught me something essential. Comfort is the enemy of growth. If you want to change your life, you have to step into discomfort again and again. My first big project was Zip2, an online directory long before Google Maps existed. We sold it, and I thought I had made it. Then came X.com, which became PayPal. It was chaotic, risky, and filled with conflict. At one point, the board fired me as CEO while I was on vacation. It hurt deeply, but that experience taught me that leadership isn't about titles, it's about vision. When one door closes, you don't wait for another to open, you build your own. When I founded Tesla, people laughed. They said, electric cars will never work. Even the major automakers mocked the idea. But I wasn't trying to build cars. I was trying to build a sustainable future. I invested almost every dollar I had. I worked days and nights, often sleeping in the factory. We were weeks away from bankruptcy more than once. Every failure, every breakdown, I treated it as data, not defeat. And then, Tesla succeeded. Not because it was easy, but because the mission was worth the pain. While Tesla was barely surviving, I launched SpaceX. People thought I'd lost my mind. 3 rockets launched. 3 rockets failed. Each explosion burned millions of dollars and shattered hope. But we analyzed every detail, learned, and improved. The 4th launch was our last chance. If it failed, SpaceX was done. But that day, the Falcon 1 reached orbit. We did it. The lesson? Success hides behind the wall of your last failure. Most people just stop one step too soon. People often ask, Elon, how do you stay motivated? The truth is, I'm not always motivated. I'm obsessed. Motivation fades. Discipline and obsession remain. When you love your mission more than you fear failure, you find a way through exhaustion. You stop caring about applause and focus on impact. The question isn't, what do I want to achieve? The real question is, what am I willing to suffer for? Today, my focus goes beyond cars and rockets. I'm working on AI, Neuralink, and Mars colonization, ideas people still call impossible. But that's fine. Every generation needs its dreamers, the ones who see what doesn't yet exist. I believe humanity must expand beyond Earth. And I believe technology should serve humanity, not control it. The goal isn't to escape the planet. It's to ensure our species has a future worth living for. We can create miracles when we align intelligence with purpose. There were nights when I thought everything would collapse. When Tesla and SpaceX both stood on the edge of bankruptcy, I had to choose which one to save. That kind of pressure breaks most people, and it nearly broke me. But in those darkest moments, I remembered why I started. Courage doesn't mean you're fearless. It means you keep moving despite fear. Pain is temporary, but giving up, that lasts forever. If you're watching this and wondering whether your dream matters, it does. You don't need to be a billionaire to make an impact. You just need courage, consistency, and a mission that sets your soul on fire. Stop waiting for permission. Stop worrying about being perfect. Start building, learning, failing, and rebuilding. The world doesn't need more critics. It needs creators. I don't measure success by how much I earn, but by how much progress we make for humanity. Because when I'm gone, the money, the fame, none of it will matter. But the work, the vision, that's what lasts. If people look at Tesla, SpaceX, or Neuralink and say, Elon Musk proved that one person can make a difference, then that's enough for me. Legacy isn't what you leave for people. It's what you leave in them. So, here's my message to you. The dreamer, the builder, the believer. Don't be afraid to look crazy. Don't be afraid to fail publicly. Don't be afraid to stand alone for what you believe in. Because one day, the same people who doubted you will call you an inspiration. The future doesn't belong to those who play it safe. It belongs to those who dare to imagine what's next and then build it. This is Elon Musk reminding you. The sky isn't the limit. It's just the beginning. The forgotten battle before the billions, the untold Zip2 company story. People know me for rockets, electric cars, and bold headlines, but what they don't see is the storm before the calm. Long before SpaceX, before Tesla, before anyone knew my name, there was a small, dimly lit office that smelled of burnt coffee and old wires. That's where I learned the hardest lesson of all: success doesn't start with glory, it starts with grit. I want to reveal the untold story of Zip2, the company that almost broke me before it built me. I grew up far from where most tech dreams were born, in South Africa, a world away from Silicon Valley. I wasn't supposed to end up here, but I was restless, always thinking about what's next. By the time I reached the US, I didn't have a clear roadmap, just a belief that the future could be engineered. I didn't come with wealth. I came with curiosity. I remember walking the streets of Palo Alto, seeing startups pop up in garages, and realizing this is where the future is being built. And I wanted in. My brother Kimball and I had one idea: help newspapers and businesses embrace the internet before it was too late. At that time, most people still thought the internet was a fad. They were comfortable flipping through yellow pages, completely unaware of how fast technology was about to shift. We saw that cities were alive with shops, restaurants, offices, but none of them existed online. We wanted to put cities on the web, to map the heartbeat of local business. So, we started building a program that could show people where to go, what to find, and how to get there. That became Zip2. We didn't have enough money for rent. So, we lived inside the office. Literally, we had one computer. Kimball coded during the day, I coded at night. When we needed to shower, we went to the YMCA down the street. Most people wouldn't call that living. But to me, it was freedom. Every line of code was one brick closer to a dream no one else could see. We'd eat cheap noodles, drink endless coffee, and code until our eyes hurt. Sometimes, I'd fall asleep on the floor, wake up at 3 a.m., and go right back to debugging. I wasn't tired, I was obsessed. When you're unknown, every door feels like a wall. We pitched Zip2 to countless investors. Most laughed. Some smiled politely and said, "Come back when people actually use the internet." That moment being dismissed, it hurts. But pain is a compass. It points you to where you need to grow. I started to realize that vision alone isn't enough. You need patience, persistence, and an almost irrational belief that you're right, even when everyone says you're wrong. Eventually, one investor saw the spark. They didn't fully get the idea, but they believed in the energy. That's how we secured our first major funding. Getting funding is like winning a battle, but not the war. With money came expectations, meetings, deadlines, and people who wanted to guide me on how a CEO should behave. I was young, too direct, maybe even too stubborn. I wanted things done fast and right. But that clashed with the traditional way of doing business. Suddenly, I was told I needed experienced leadership. They said I was too inexperienced to manage my own creation. Imagine being told to step aside from the very thing you built with your own hands. It was like watching your child being raised by strangers. I learned then that sometimes success demands sacrifice even when it's your pride. Despite the chaos, Zip2 grew. We landed partnerships with major newspapers, the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, and more. The software that once lived in a tiny office was now helping millions find businesses and navigate their cities. I remember standing in that office, watching our system go live for the first time, seeing our maps and directories load across the web. It was surreal. But deep down, I knew something else. This was just the beginning. Then came the offer. Compaq wanted to buy Zip2. The number on the table was staggering: over $300 million. After years of sleeping on the floor and eating cheap noodles, it didn't feel real. My personal share was around $22 million. For most people, that's a lifetime win. But for me, it was the beginning of a bigger question: what's next? Because money, as strange as it sounds, wasn't the destination. The real prize was freedom. Freedom to think bigger, dream louder, and fail harder if needed. Zip2 was my first real education not in programming, but in perseverance. It taught me that ideas are fragile until you protect them with action. It taught me that success comes wrapped in frustration, loss, and uncertainty. And it taught me that if you can endure the early storms, you earn the right to build empires later. Every sleepless night, every rejection, every you can't, they were sparks. Sparks that lit the fire for everything that came next: PayPal, Tesla, SpaceX. Without Zip2, there would be no Musk story. Zip2 wasn't my first success. It was my first proof that resilience beats resources and passion beats privilege. If you're watching this, and you're somewhere between hope and giving up, remember my story. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start. Start building. Start coding. Start believing. The floor you sleep on today could become the foundation of your empire tomorrow. Every dream looks impossible until you outwork the odds. So keep pushing, keep growing, and never let the world convince you to shrink your vision. If this story inspired you, share this to someone chasing a dream. Elon Musk, Balos MINDSHIFT Motivations, reminding you, your limits are just starting points. I quote, "When you can't find the path, build your own road."